I'm Frank Almond. I'm your mayor. If I haven't met you personally, thanks for being part of all this. So this is almost the end of the beginning of the comprehensive plan process. If you've been around earlier in the process, you know we started back in October and November, and we had a series of public meetings, and there's been all sorts of information gathering going on by way of surveys and meetings with civic and community groups of all kinds. We had a group at the school, at the high school, who did a project and presented last time we were together. So that's been this big information gathering phase, and tonight is to present the first draft of the result of all that, which contains recommendations based on all that information, as well as the expertise of the collaborative who we hired to provide us with their expertise. So we'll get the plan in that draft form tonight, and then we'll enter into a period of about 30 days where you'll have opportunity to comment on what you see in that plan. Anything you thought should have been there that wasn't, something we misunderstood about what your intentions were, what you meant to say, all that kind of stuff. It'll also include an opportunity for our steering committee to continue their work and to feed back into the draft plan. Which reminds me that the last time we were together and I was headed for the stage, I had 3 different people whispering in my ear, be sure to introduce this group and that person and the other thing. And I completely left off the steering committee, who's been an integral part of this whole process. I'm looking around, I know a few are here, and I have not memorized the roster. It's about 15 people who were selected from the community specifically to meet with the collaborative and go over all this data. So if you're on that steering committee, please stand up and let us acknowledge you for your help on it. Thank you. Over there. There are others, and they meet at least as often as we've had public meetings. They meet beforehand and afterwards to kind of plan the meetings and offer feedback and debrief afterwards. So they will get this draft also and have an opportunity. They are people that you can give your feedback to, as well as to any of your city council members. And there'll be some email addresses and so on where you can write comments as you think of them. Then that plan will come back, and it'll actually go through then our regular, like a zoning kind of process. It'll go through our community council. It'll go to our planning commission. It'll come to city council finally, and we'll vote on it at that point. Then it has to go to a couple of state agencies. The Department of Community Affairs has to sign off on it. The Atlanta Regional Commission has to sign off on it. In their cases, it's a little less about the substance and the content of the plan and more to make sure that we did the process properly and we had all the elements included. This is all mandated by the state to begin with, because we all know government knows best. And so they need to check all the boxes. Then it'll come back to us again and we'll give a final approval. So part of the reason for me telling you that is to let you know you still have some time to make comments after you've seen the draft. But it'll be several months before all of that happens and we finally adopt what will be then our comprehensive plan for the next 5 to 10 years. In the meantime, we have a comprehensive plan. We adopted, if you remember way back in the beginning, we sort of carved out the map of Tucker from DeKalb County's comprehensive plan and adopted that for ourselves because you have to have something, and that was our starting place. So until we pass this plan, whatever the final version of this is, we're operating under a comprehensive plan, and that's what we'll weigh everything against, and to land use and all of those things. So just for everybody's understanding, that's kind of the process. The wheels turn slowly, but we're working at it, and we're getting there, and we're looking forward to what all Angela Parker has to say. She's our lead on the project. She's going to talk through, do we have written copies yet? They're on the way. She's going to talk through what she was going to show you on the PowerPoint, and we'll make do and find a way to deliver the written versions to you either tonight or immediately afterwards.
How many of you watched the Falcons game, the big game? You know, in the last half, everything just was going so well, and then all of a sudden it just totally fell apart. Well, that's how I feel right now. When your favorite sports team is just everything, every little thing that could happen does happen. Essentially, I have a PowerPoint, which will be posted either later tonight or early this morning, which I'm going to sort of go through without the visuals. For some reason, I don't know if it's a storm, we're having trouble getting the connection. It's like a static TV. So I'll sort of walk through that. And in addition, I had documents for everyone that were supposed to be delivered that have not come. I don't know if it's a storm. We sent someone to try to see if they can track down the printer, but they were supposed to be delivered here a few minutes, or an hour or so ago. So in the event we don't get those, we will then make sure that they're at City Hall so that you can get copies of those. But this document will also be posted on the website. So you can print it from home, you can look at it from home. I will say that in the interest of saving money, the printed copies that we're printing were black and white. And there are visuals within the plan that I think it's better to look at in color. Of course, the land use plan map and character area map are much better in color. So even if you get the black and white copy, which we were trying to save your tax dollars by printing about black and white, it's better to pull it up on your website and look at it in color so that you can see the color copy. So essentially, this particular community forum is focused on that final draft of the plan. Our initial schedule called for releasing that at the last public meeting. We have, over the last month, been working very closely with city staff and with the city council in reviewing that plan and making tweaks to that plan. And what we released, though, is still a draft. And I want everyone to understand that there's multiple opportunities to review, comment, and impact that document. So I'll underscore that now, and I'll also underscore that later. There is a part of that plan that we're holding back. We want input from the steering committee on it, which we'll post later. But in essence, this whole process began back in October, November of last year. We began what we call the listen and learn phase. We went through a series of public meetings, community forums, walking tours of downtown and other areas to get input, to gain information from the community in terms of what's important to you in your city, and what are some of the things that you wanted changed or improved, or assets that you wanted capitalizing on. We had a lot of small group meetings. We met with the Tucker Business Association. We met with the Friends of Tucker Parks. We just held a number of meetings, which is really the listen and learn information gathering phase. Some of what I'm saying, I will say that some of you have probably heard this before, but I see a few new faces, so we always try to kind of start back, kind of where we've been, where we're going, to fill those in who have not been a part of the process. The next phase was what we call the issues and opportunities. And we had in all those sources of understanding, the past studies, the work that the CIDs have done, the statistical data, just the demographic data about the city, our community engagement, of course, which I mentioned earlier. And then we've spent a lot of time in the city of Tucker. In fact, I've not only spent a lot of time in the city of Tucker, I've started coming to Tucker some just for, like I was here this past Saturday night for Cruise In, just because it's kind of a fun place and there's a lot of fun things to do here. First-hand observations, which of course we spend a lot of time here, and also in our professional judgment. In all of that, we came to this: what are the major assets that Tucker has? And we've developed what we believe is an asset-based plan. We're taking those assets and how can you capitalize on those assets. The assets that we identified was this sense of connectedness, the fact that people like downtown Tucker and they want downtown Tucker improved. The neighborhoods, there's a lot of pride in the neighborhoods and the fact that there are lots of different incomes that can live comfortably in the city of Tucker. And then the recreational resources, the park resources that have been somewhat not well maintained, but that hopefully in the future that will change, particularly if Tucker takes over those park resources. And then the geography of Tucker, it's very, very close to a lot of jobs, and a lot of people live here and work very close to Buckhead, Perimeter Center, and downtown. So those are all assets. And so the plan, what it seeks to achieve is to build on those assets. With that first phase, issues and opportunities, we came up with what we believe are preliminary goals. those goals are increased connectivity, enhancing downtown Tucker, preserving and improving your existing neighborhoods, strengthening your recreational and your community resources, and then bolstering your economic base, the jobs here in Tucker. And then we basically presented all of that to you in a PowerPoint here in a community forum. But then the next meeting, we presented our preliminary ideas. And when I say our preliminary ideas, these are ideas that we gleaned from what the community wanted in Tucker. And we had a draft consolidated vision. It was a map with taking those goals, those 5 goals that I mentioned, and speaking to those on a map and where those could be applied on a map. And that map will be in this presentation. That map you'll also see in the plan document. It's a visual showing where all of these goals can be applied in the area of Tucker. And then we had a meeting where there were basically all around this room, we had boards posted, and everyone went and looked at those boards, and they were organized by goals and how those goals could be implemented. Those are some ideas that we had on how you can further those goals. So there was a community forum that focused on that, and there was a lot of dialogue in that community meeting. And we then went one step further and tweaked based upon the comments we heard, and that took us to the next community meeting, which was the last meeting where we presented our preliminary ideas. And they're really, again, those 5 major goals. We tweaked the connectivity one to improve transportation connections, but the underlying theme throughout this plan is connectivity. Because not only connectivity, connecting people to places, but it's also connectivity in terms of connecting people to their community. I mean, there's a real sense of connectedness in Tucker, and we feel like that needs to be capitalized on. That's one of the, I guess, distinctions from some of the other areas that we worked in, is there a strong sense of community, strong sense of connectedness. And so we've basically taken that, and it's kind of like the backbone or the underlying theme of the whole plan. This connectivity really unites these 5 goals. And it could be promoting more face-to-face interactions between the community and citizens. A multi-use trail system, there's a lot of support for that. A trail system that would connect parks, help people access some of the parks that you have that really aren't used, such as the parks over in Smoke Rise. There's some great park assets there that really aren't used because there's nowhere to park, there's no really easy way to get there. So the corridors, the Lawrenceville Highway corridor, we heard loud and clear that there's a strong desire to improve the Lawrenceville Highway corridor, and particularly as it kind of changes the name to Hugh Howell going into the Smoke Rise area. And so we have recommendations on that. And then that in connectivity also is an underlying theme with the desire of the community to maintain this broad range of housing prices and styles so that one can buy a starter home here in Tucker, but then you can age in place in your ranch home, or there are options as you want to move up to a bigger, nicer house. There's the ability to do that in Tucker. So that maintaining the connection so that you can start your life here and then you can end your life here. So there's that whole connectivity kind of stays as that underlying theme. Development redevelopment is another thing that we look at in this plan, because Tucker is a community that's largely, not totally, but largely already developed. There's not a lot of vacant land remaining in the city of Tucker. So whatever development occurs in Tucker will end up being redevelopment. There'll be a densification or potentially a change in use in Tucker. So we looked at, and there was a lot of dialogue in the community, where do you want to see growth? What we heard is that, just list a few of those that you'll see as you look at the plan. The North Lake area is an area where if there's going to be any higher density or densification, that it should be focused in the North Lake area. We heard that downtown Tucker is an area where there's a desire to keep the density fairly low. I think there's We heard that there's a lot of desire to have more housing closer to downtown, to have some other assets downtown, such as potential parks, but that the density, the community did not envision the density similar to what you see in some of the other areas, such as Sandy Springs or even in Decatur. We heard kind of loud, we don't want to look like Decatur. And so we're not recommending that there be any higher density in the downtown area. The mountain industrial areas, that corridor, as well as the Hugh Howell section, is another area where we heard there's a desire to change some of the uses, to improve the visual character of the corridor, and to have more jobs in that area that would attract people that work in Tucker, and that there'd be higher paying jobs. The new EGL, some of the biomed uses that are currently in that corridor, we believe offer, particularly with the close proximity of Emory, and Georgia Tech for that matter, offer the opportunity to capitalize on that biomed, given your proximity to Emory, but also given, if you look at what you've recently attracted, and I think there's a clear indication that the market sees that Tucker is well situated, well placed for that kind of use. So we had initially planned to post the document right after the last meeting. And that's essentially what I reported, is that sometimes soon after the last meeting, we would post the plan on the website. However, we have been very actively engaged with city staff and with the city council looking at the plan and getting their input on the plan. There's been a lot of focus on the community work program, which I'll talk about shortly. But we've held meetings with each of the council people. We've held a number of meetings with city staff, looking at how we can tweak the document so that it addresses everyone's concerns and issues. The revisions that we've talked about to the community work program will not be completed until sometime next week. But we've also talked about presenting the community work program to the steering committee for input. Let me speak a little bit about what the community work program is and then what's in the plan document. You'll have in the plan document there is a section on each one of those 5 goals that speaks to how this particular goal can be implemented. Then there is a section of the plan, which we call the community work program, that basically lists all of those things that the city can do to further that goal. There are also dates, when I say dates, years, and then there are little X's that let you know that this particular item will be done in, say, 2019. This other, the second item might be done in 2020. So those are all timed in terms of dates. There's been a whole lot of focus by council and staff and the city manager on this community work program, because once the community work program is presented to the public, often people will think, well, then that's exactly when it's going to happen. But from our perspective, and we want to underscore this, the community work program is really what I would characterize as an organic document. It would, every year, we're recommending this to the city as a part of the budgeting process. There'd be a review of this community work program, all of those things that you said that you want to do to further the plan, to see whether or not the timing of those items is still valid. There will be things that happen that will cause you to move things forward so that you advance them. You might get grant funding. There might be a developer comes in with a project where they're going to implement some component of the work program. So it's a very flexible document. So we've paid a lot of attention to it at this point, but I think I want you to keep in mind that every year there will be a tweaking of that document. So some probably associated with some community engagement, but ideally that community work program will help drive the budget decisions that council makes. And every year with the budget process, that gets tweaked slightly. Just in in terms of the plan in general, it's clearly a decision-making document. It's a decision-making document because it has what's called the land use plan map, and that document is used for zoning recommendations. That's what the staff uses when someone applies for zoning. They look at the land use plan map, but they also look at the policies of the plan to make sure that the application furthers or is consistent with those plan policies. That's one way it's used. Another way, as we mentioned, is in the budgeting process. It also can be used by groups such as the Georgia Department of Transportation, in that when they do a project, it would, if it's in your comp plan, then they will make sure that their project complies with what you call for in the plan. Then kind of looking at how the plan is used and then what it is, it's really an aspirational document. It's a document that defines where you want to be out into the future. It tends to be very ambitious, and we've been very focused, and we've had a lot of dialogue with City Council on this. A lot of the things that the citizens of Tucker want to see happen are expensive. The trails are $1.2 million a mile, $1.5 million a mile, in that range. So it's very expensive. And I know that the city proposes in the near future, I believe, to take over the park system. That's going to be expensive. So all of these things cost money, and we're not what I would call balancing the budget with the community work program. There will be things that far exceed your ability to execute in the near future. But it's important to have this aspirational document so that you know what you want in the future. The recommendations really can be achieved over time. You'll see it's a 5-year work program, but it's probably a 25 or even a 30-year plan. It could be even longer. No community has the ability to execute a plan by yourself. We've sort of chuckled that it would be a OPM, which we call a lot of what Tucker needs to do would be with other people's money, whether that be Georgia Department of Transportation grant funds or ARC funds, Atlanta Regional Commission funds, or some other private funds. But Tucker's been very good about getting grant funding to do things, and I think that's going to have to go up a notch, given all the things that you want to see. And I underscore, no community can bring a plan to life alone. Partnerships are tremendously important. Continuing those strong partnerships that you've already seen bear a lot of fruits with both the Stone Mountain Community Improvement District and the Tucker North Lake Community Improvement District, the Tucker Business Association, the things that the Old Town Merchants Association does. All of those groups, Friends of Tucker Parks, I can't even mention all of them, but all of those partners are going to be important in executing the plan for Tucker. They're all players in that plan execution. The developers also play a role in that a developer comes in for a project and there are things that they can do, how they handle the streetscape, the uses that they propose on their property. All of those things can figure into implementing that plan. The other thing is that we kind of pointed out in our PowerPoint is that a lot of this plan is really about momentum. The city has a lot of momentum that was, executed when you became a new city. And just building on that momentum as you implement things. Once there's a lot of momentum that will come with taking over the park system and the things that the city will do in improving that park system. And I think in a year, I think everyone will see a huge difference in how the park system is run because there'll be focus on parks. So that momentum kind of breeds further momentum. Sort of walking through this PowerPoint. Going to how this plan is organized, I spoke a little bit to that a minute ago. you've got your vision and goals, then you have the plan implementation section, which is, will have a character area section, which will be a map, and it has sections on each one of those character areas describes further how those character areas or the things that you would want to implement, and you envision that you'd want to implement in those character areas. There's also a future land use plan map that is very important, that is a part of the plan. And there's a community work program. Our schedule on the community work program, as I mentioned, is that it be posted once we've had an opportunity to connect with the steering committee, get input from that committee, make a number of other changes, but we'll be posting that in the future. Timing-wise, we will post, I'll post this PowerPoint tonight or early in the morning to the website, and then we'll be posting the draft plan. If it's not already posted, it'll be posted later tonight or early in the morning to the website for you to look at. Once we post the community work program, we'll work with the city and make sure that there's notice to everyone that that's been posted, that we've amended the document to include that. And then when we do that, we will start a 30-day comment period, or about a month comment period. We won't do that until the entire document is up on the website so that everybody has adequate time to look at it. The timing in terms of approval of the document will be way out in the future. In terms of comments, you'll have the opportunity to comment. What we would love for you to do is that you comment using that info@TuckerTomorrowPlan email address. You don't have to go into the contact list on the website. You can actually just send an email using that email address and give us your comments. I believe my telephone number is on the website. Feel free to call me. That's another way of giving me comments, and I'm happy to meet with groups if that's helpful. But we want to make sure that there's adequate opportunity for everybody to comment on the plan. That I mentioned that 30-day comment period. Once everything's posted, then we'll go back and we'll make some revisions to the plan. But after that, the plan will go to the community council, the planning commission. There'll be a public hearing before the planning commission, a public hearing before city council. It goes to the Atlanta Regional Commission and Department of Community Affairs. Then it goes back, and there's more public hearings. So there are multiple opportunities to comment on the plan. Even though, I'm happy to say, we've gotten our document. So this is the draft plan. So you get something for coming out in this nasty weather, because nobody else has a printed copy of this. And it is black and white, but it'll give you an idea. Even though it is black and white, I'll give you.
Does anybody not have a plan?
Okay, so we just hit a single. That's all it is, a single. Yeah. So John is handing out the draft plan, and I will say that some of the graphics may not be 100% clear. Because I sent what we call the low-res version to the printer because it's such a big document, it'll be a little fuzzier. And there are some other graphics, such as these graphics on page 29, that we're going to enlarge. They're a little difficult to read at this level, so we're going to take those graphics, make them a little bit bigger. So there's some graphic tweaks that we'll be making. But again, it's just a draft. So you've got two things. You've got the draft plan, And because it's impossible to read the land use plan map without it being in color, we've also handed out copies of this document. So if you don't have a copy of it, just raise your hand and Rita or John will give you a copy of that document as well. So, in essence, John, this is actually the wrong version. This is unbelievable. The community work program is in this version, and it is draft at this point. It is not a final document. Unfortunately, it's in the version that you have. It's on page 58. So please keep in mind that the community work program is not a final document. The costs are not final. So this will not be the version that's actually posted because there are changes that have not been made to that section of the document. So it's organized by goal, and there are bullets for each goal that describe ways of implementing that goal. So what we'd like for you to do is to take a look at this document and go through it fairly carefully, looking at the things that are in it, and let us know if we got it right. And then if you'll send us comments via email, and then we will send a blast out through the city once we post the final community work program to the website, and let you know that you can comment on that as well. So at this point, I really don't have any other comments. So it's been a long process that we still have a lot more to do on. So I'd anticipate probably within 2 weeks there being a posting of the community work program on the website, and then we'll let you know about that. And at that point, we'll start our comment period.
Yep, so I think the really important part of this is that we're starting to hand this off to the city now that we've had these meetings, and this is the very beginning of reviewing this document. So, because of what the mayor said earlier, we're going to take this back through our boards before we send this to the Department of Community Affairs and the Atlanta Regional Commission. And then it'll come back from them after they approve it, and then the council will adopt it. So there's been a ton of great input, to date on this plan, and the walking tours and all the outreach that we've had. And it's really just a starting point. And it's also really just a starting point because we're going to be looking at this document from an annual standpoint and seeing which projects and which programs we want to move forward with. So I guess what I'm really trying to stress here is that this is a living document. It's going to change over time. So we really want to get your input on, of course, the text, and then now that we have some work program language in there, your thoughts on that too. So I think we're going to adjourn, and we've got a number of the council here. I would actually maybe just make a note, because I don't miss anybody here, but Councilor Monfordini in the back, and then Councilor Rosenfeld, Vandekreek, Robbins, and of course our mayor. I think we've also got members. Did I miss someone? Yes, I'm sorry. Wow, I'm in trouble. Our Mayor Pro Tem. So, also we've got members of the Planning Commission here. George Welburn is here, and Ann Coppedge. We've got Community Council members here, Frank Luton, Frank Sapp. Help me out here, Tommy Lupo, Kara Schroeder. We're gonna, did I miss someone too? Sorry. Okay. But we're gonna adjourn, and all the, staff, our Deputy Director, Courtney Langford back here, are here to, so if you have some preliminary, thoughts on the plan, please forward that, and Angela will be accepting all these. It looks, I should have brought, it looks different in color online, so I would say really use this black and white copy as a starting point, and then go online. And we're going to have, like we said earlier, 30 days for comments. So we're really, please do stay engaged, because there's a lot of really good projects and programs. There's a lot of work that's gone into this, and it's going to be a great starting point for the city moving forward.